Okay, so hello
Welcome.
there. I am Benny,
I'm Valerie.
and this is the Living Your Best Life podcast.
Oh gosh, I have to tell you guys. Oh, welcome. I'm so glad you guys are here.
So yes, we are very glad you're here. What were you going to say?
Oh, I know you're going to get into this a little bit later, but wholeheartedly living. Is that a good name? Or do we keep living your best life?
Oh, you're talking about the name of the podcast?
Yes.
Little context. Okay. Wholeheartedly living. Yeah, I like that. It's kind of hard to say. Wholeheartedly living. You could accidentally see. I can't even do it. No, the name sucks.
Oh.
No, it doesn't suck. But I'm not sure I want it.
Okay, never mind. I was just because you're going to get into this in a little bit.
Well, what we want to say is this has been the podcast where one of us comes to the table with a particular topic, and then the other person is surprised by that topic.
Which I'm going to be surprised by today, right?
Correct. So today is my turn to present a topic, but last week Valerie did. What did you do last week?
New Year's.
No, that was me 2 weeks
Oh,
ago.
no, it was functional movement.
Functional movement. Okay, so what we're going to do, well, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do this week yet, but we have made a decision, and this is going to change everything for all of our listeners. Holy crap. What is going to happen? Da, 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 da. We have decided, in order to give you guys significantly new information, and also so that you could potentially follow along with us and come to the table, come to the podcast with either questions / thoughts, and or maybe just we're going to bring up some insights that maybe you didn't get in a book that we're going to recommend.
Yes. And I brought it. So if you're actually watching.
If you're on the
that's the
YouTube, you
book.
can see it. It's by Brené Brown. It's called The Gifts of Imperfection.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are actually, say it again so that because
The
that was
Gifts
stupid.
of Imperfection.
Yeah. So the
Which
gifts
is I haven't read the book, you guys. I did start reading a little bit of it this morning, but I love one of my friends, and you know who she is. Her Instagram name is Perfectly Imperfect.
Oh, yeah.
And so I love that because, everybody strives to be so perfect, but I don't know if that's how we have to be.
Well, you know what's interesting? So it's going to be, we're going to try this out, folks, and we'd love to hear from you. But the idea is this: we are going to, this thing in particular has, what are they called again?
It is not called chapters. What
No,
did
they're
it? They were
called
called guideposts.
Guideposts. And so what we're going to do is, now I did read this book. It's probably been over a year. So Valerie and I are not going to read like way ahead. We are going to read a guidepost. And then we're going to discuss the guideposts and how it impacted us or thoughts or disagreements, whatever the case may be. Because quite frankly, we don't know. Because I read this, it did impact me. I liked it, but I don't remember it, to be honest. I've said this a number of times on the podcast. I'm not good at rote memory. So, so when I read it again, it's going to be kind of like
So for example, the guidepost number 1 is, and there's a lot. Just so you know, if you haven't read it. If you have read it, let us know. I'd love to know if you've read it and what you think about it. But just so you know, in the very beginning, there's a lot of preamble, introduction, like it's very long to before you get to the guidepost. But it does give you a little bit of story behind Brené Brown. But guidepost number 1 is cultivating authenticity, letting go of what people think. And actually, you asked me if I started reading it, and I did, because now that I read that, I realized I did get into the first guidepost. Not the whole thing, though. But it's intriguing. And so I do think that if you wanted to grab the book, I will put a link in the description.
And Iggy, oh my goodness, and we forgot. And this is Iggy. Hi, Iggy, our sound guy, video guy.
Hello.
He is not forgotten. We're just remiss.
We just suck at remembering to do this. And my daughter actually said, "Don't forget to mention Iggy." We said we never forget to mention him. We just sometimes do it late.
Hey, we're better this time. It's only
it's only a few minutes, and normally it's like we're closing, and then we go, "Oh, and Iggy." I'm kidding. So anyway, but Iggy's also going to put it in YouTube on the YouTube channel so that you can click it. Obviously, you can just Google it because it's a Brené Brown's a big author, so you'll be able to find her anywhere. We're gonna post it for those of you that want to read it via Amazon.
Yeah, but if you don't want it would be fun if you read it and kind of kept up with us. We could be like a little book club,
Right.
But also, if you don't read it, we will definitely be sharing our thoughts and stuff.
Yeah, it's not like it's required reading because we're still going to do what we do. We're going to chat. We're going to talk. We're just going to be real. But this is going to help us with the subject matter instead of us surprising each other. We're not going to discuss the book, for lack of a better word, offline. Valerie and I. So we're literally going to have the discussion right here in this place. And so we'll see what happens, quite frankly, because I'm looking forward to it. I
kind of hope we don't agree on the book. It'd be kind of fun to have controversy.
It would be good to have controversy. Maybe the last podcast, but it would. but nevertheless, it would be kind of fun if we have a different way to approach
a different opinion on stuff.
Yeah, we're not trying to make this like the canon, and it's something like we're just trying to figure out what kind of impact it has on us. And then hopefully relate it to you and how it could either help you or perhaps we're going to, like we said, I don't know if the right words disagree with Brené Brown, but
I love the title, The Gifts of Imperfection. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so I do remember enjoying it. But like I said, I don't remember it super well. So there you go. How are you? So that's it. So remember this, click it, get the book, go ahead and read it. If you've already read it, like Valerie said, it would be great to hear from you as well. Or read it again with us, just at least skim it or what have you.
How am I? Well, guess what? So just on the way over here, my registration on my car was due in October and I didn't pay for it because I forgot.
So listeners, it's December.
Yes. No, it's January, actually, when they hear this.
Oh, it's January.
Yeah. So I remember getting it and thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get this taken care of. I don't know why they give you so long to take care of it because out of sight, out of mind, I forgot. I should just pay for a this has actually never happened to me before, but I pulled it out and said, oh, I need to take care of this. And then Peter's like, yeah, it's overdue. And I'm like, oh my God. So now you have to pay the fee and what have you. I also had to do
a late fee.
Yeah. Oh. And then I also have to do the smog check. So,
bummer.
And I have an older car. And so he just went to go get it smog checked today and it did not pass.
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah. So now I was on my way over here and he's like, could you pick me up? I'm dropping your car off at blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'm actually on my way to Benny's. So he's calling Kylie to go pick him up, pick him up. But so we'll see how much that cost. And then we had to, obviously pay for the registration with a late fee. And so that's always fun.
No, it's not.
No.
So that was sarcasm.
It was sarcasm, but you know what? I do have a car.
That's true.
And I do have the money to pay for it. So it
is what it is, but it's but it is a drag. I actually really. So you want to hear a story about how bad I am in Ecuador? No. I'm not in Ecuador.
I was just going to say.
When I was in Ecuador, so Ecuador has you have to, what is it called? A vehicle check. You have to do a vehicle check. It takes hours. Like you're talking about, like you get in line for hours. Mm-hmm. And actually, we finally learned the last few years to pay someone to be in line because I could be in line for six hours.
Oh, gotcha. So you could pay someone and then you can move up.
Yeah. No, they drive my car. They stay in the line, so I don't have to sit there for 6 hours.
Oh.
And so, but anyway, my car never ever passed, and so she keeps hitting me because I keep shaking my legs. So my car would never ever pass, and so we would go to this place, and he would actually remove the catalytic converter, and he would put a rented one in. and then he would manipulate everything.
It would pass by doing that?
Then we would drive through and we would get checked. And then we would leave, and then we go back to him, and he would swap them again.
Wait, so is that why my car's not passing because of a catalytic converter?
I doubt it. And you better hope not, because they're like
I
$1
know,
gazillion.
I know. But he said it was something else, and it seemed very minor. So, I mean, I'm hoping that.
Our car was 175 years old, and it had
Mine's
major
not that
issues. Yeah, yours isn't that
Was it
old.
driven by a horse?
I know. I was just gonna say the motor was literally when it says horsepower, it was literally a horse in there, and so yeah, we just needed to give him an enema. Oops. So the horse, get it?
My gosh.
Oh my
Ba-dum,
gosh.
bum.
Bum. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Why can't I share about the other thing?
Well, no, you can now. She was talking.
Oh.
Don't interrupt me.
we have a new car.
Oh.
Yes,
Which
we
car
bought
do
a
you
car.
not have?
The Prius. We got rid of the Prius.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Prius, the brakes stopped working, and that was problematic for driving.
Yes.
And so
You couldn't get the brakes fixed?
Well, what happened is the brakes actually broke like 6 to 8 months ago. Like, we have a Christmas tree on the dashboard, and so we took it to the guy, and they do the little plug-in thing. It's so funny, mechanics don't really do anything. In the
Everything's
old
like,
days, it
I
was like
know.
really checking everything
Yeah.
out, and now it's literally all
Just
he did.
plugging things in.
Yeah,
and
he
have
plugs in this
yeah.
thing, and then it says whatever. And anyway, he plugged it in, and he immediately goes, "You're I don't know what it's called, but basically, you remember the old days when it's the anti-lock brake system.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
So what he said is, you don't need the anti-lock brakes. The car will drive perfectly fine. You're just not going to have anti-lock brakes. So you have to go to the old school way of pumping, if you're going to skid. And he goes, and he actually told us, and that's what I would do, because this car isn't worth replacing it, because it's like $3,500 or something like that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I wouldn't put that much money into this car. And so we've been living with this Christmas tree on top, and it lots of lights on the dashboard. That's what I'm saying. So
I was
it's
like, it is Christmas time, so I'm not understanding.
So it had lots of lights on the dashboard, and it's funny because you really, once you get used to it, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't relate this until a few months after he told me this, but there's always this buzzing when I would get in the car. It'd go me, and then it'd go away, me, and it'd go away. Well, all of a sudden that buzzing would last longer. And one time I didn't wait for it to end because it was lasting so long, and I started to drive. And what I realized is that's the thing to tell you, don't drive yet. Your brakes aren't working. And it was like I had to push really, really hard. And then all of a sudden the buzzer went off, and then all of a sudden it drove. So I was like, so that's the thing that you have to do. Well, last week, was it last week? Yeah, Patty and Ashley were in that car, and the buzzer never turned off. She had to
It's
drive
like,
it here.
stop driving altogether.
Yeah. So, well, they could drive it, and the brakes still work, but it's like old school brakes, no power, no nothing.
Yeah.
And
So if
it's
you had to
dangerous.
come to a sudden stop, you couldn't.
Well, you might be able to. It's just hard. It would be really, really hard.
yeah.
It would be stupid dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we decided at that moment we're going to buy another car, and so the long story short is we did, and that's really so funny that I just said the long story short.
I know that was a very long story. That wasn't short.
The long story long is we did.
We bought a car.
We bought a car. And so we had all these dreams of all these different cars, and we bought the first car we saw, basically, wasn't it? Or the second car we saw. So, and then, what's really funny?
Well, what car is it?
Oh, we bought a Hyundai. Is that how you say it? Sonata.
Oh, yeah.
Sonata.
That's
It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's
very
really
cool.
pretty this year. Yeah, it's Iggy's car, actually, the exact same car Iggy has.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's a year.
I was like, you bought it from
got
Iggy?
this
That's
year.
all you had to say before that.
We got this year, and this year car, and it was really cool because it was a rental. What not the rental, but the one they loaned out. Service loaner. And so it has 6,000 miles on it, and but it's the highest like trim thingy.
Oh, good.
And we got it really discounted. And then it was funny because I'm going to make a very long story short, and really I'm going to make this short. The first guy didn't want to give us any value to our Prius, which was not there. We told him the condition it was in, and he goes, I'm not going to give you any value until we actually see it. we found one in another place that's far away. And the long story short is those people drove the car here and gave it to us. And, there was a little bickering back and forth, but this guy just kept going down in price. So that was that.
Cool.
So we got it.
Very good. Very
It's happy.
good.
It's really
Yay.
fun to have a car that has brakes. So
It is. That is important.
And it's my daughter's birthday
And
today.
there's no Christmas tree in the light.
No Christmas tree. Well, actually, it's really fun. It has like a computer screen there.
Oh,
It's
so
like,
there kind of is a Christmas
it
tree.
kind of is. You could probably put a Christmas tree in it. You could probably do whatever you want. It's really fun. But it's my daughter's birthday
I
today.
know.
She's 28.
It's my niece.
28 today. Yeah, that's interesting how she's your niece and my daughter. How does that work? So happy birthday, Ashley. And we're gonna.
I screamed happy
have
birthday
fun.
when I came in. I don't want to scream right now.
No, don't do that. She did that once when we had our headphones on. Both Iggy and I almost died. Okay, so you ready for the subject?
Yes.
Okay, so the subject today is, and maybe I'm curious about this. Do you ever find yourself in a situation where you're kind of dreading a particular action, and whatever it is, it's a to-do list thing, it's maybe a work thing, or maybe, I don't know. Do you find yourself ever stuck?
Yeah, I'm sure. I can't think of a
Specific
particular.
thing?
But I'm sure that I dread something.
Some actions.
Yeah.
So what this particular topic is about is because I feel like this is something that's going to happen in the new year, and people deal with this. And we've talked already a couple weeks ago, and we've talked about the idea of having goals and setting goals and having New Year's resolutions and all those kind of things. And so the topic today is procrastination. And why is it that people do struggle with procrastinating? What is it that makes it so that people feel stuck? And why is it, how do we deal with all that? So first of all, do we need to define procrastination?
You don't for me, but go for it if you want to define it. Defined it?
I want to find it.
Defined it.
I guess the birthday girl's leaving, so she's looking for shoes or something she can steal. I'm not sure what she's looking for. But procrastination, I actually didn't define it. So should I just say, hey, Siri, define procrastination? No.
I think for some people it can be, I think people can have their own definition of it, right? Because I'm sure there's a Webster dictionary definition, but there's also, I think, procrastination just because you're afraid. Like some people procrastinate because they don't want to do it. Some people are procrastinate because they're afraid to do it, or there's procrastination because you're afraid to fail. I don't know.
So no, what you're saying, I think, is all the definition. So the definition, because
You read it.
The act or habit of putting off or delaying, especially something requiring immediate attention.
See,
Putting it off.
so there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Goodbye.
So what you just said, and so that's what's interesting is that's the actual definition. So it has to do with the act of putting things off. And so the first thing is, when we're talking about New Year's resolutions, when we're talking about, we're going to be past this already, but family get-togethers, and there's sometimes family members that people don't want to get together with, or they're struggling with, or they have to deal with a particular incident, and they probably should deal with it prior to the get-together, but instead of dealing with it, they don't, and then they carry that into it, blah, blah, blah. How do you deal with that?
To be honest with you, I'm a big procrastinator. We've talked about this before. It's not that I procrastinate in terms of like relational things, but I do procrastinate in like, cleaning the house. Like I procrastinate because I work better under pressure, it seems. So I like give myself, like I look down and I'm like, I still have 20 minutes. You know what I mean? And then,
right.
So, in terms of like, procrastinating the simple
Tasks.
things, yes, in life I do procrastinate just by nature, because I feel like if I have all this time, we've talked about this before, but I feel like if I have all this time, I don't know, for some reason I really do work better under pressure. I work, and we've talked about like the fact that I will try to shove a bunch of stuff in if I even only have 2 more minutes.
Right.
Instead of knowing I had a full hour to do something, I will go, oh, I'm just going to wait till the last minute and then I'm going to try to shove it all in. And, but like relational or goals, I don't feel like I push those off. If it's something relational, I'm way better about it in the last few years, handful, maybe 3 to 5 years versus 20 years ago, because I did procrastinate on those because I didn't want confrontation. I did not want to ruffle feathers. But now I feel like when I feel like there's something going on, I want to address it, and I want it to be, even if it's not resolved, I want it to be out there that there's this conflict or there's this or whatever it is, and I want to have it out there. I want to talk about it, kind of thing. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Well, I think yes, you are making sense, but part of it might be because I, knew the subject matter and I know the direction we're going. But so I do think of that. I'm trying to think of the average person who's out there, and I know for me. First of all, I'm still fascinated by the fact that you say I do better work under pressure. And I really wonder if that's true, or if what you're really saying is I stay on task and complete the task because I know I have to get it done in X amount of time, which is not the same thing. Do you understand what I just said? Did that make sense, what I just said?
Yeah, that could be, because I feel like if there's a lot of if there's a lot of time in between the time allotted, if you will, if there's a lot of time in there, I will randomly just go, oh, let me see if anybody DM'd me.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Where when I know that I have to get it done and like, okay, now I have to go and do this, full throttle. I won't even pick up the phone. Like, I don't even remember where my phone is because
you're in task mode.
Exactly.
Well, I think
So
that's
I guess
another
that's
thing.
true.
I guess that's another thing that's interesting is what you're saying is you're probably procrastinating certain tasks that you are very aware of how long it takes you to do.
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So in other words, like if it's what did you just say? Dusting or putting all the pillows back on the on the couch the way you like them, or like, okay, this is going to take me 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and then instead of just doing it way beforehand, you like you just said, you could blow it off because this is going to take me a minute, okay, or that thing's going to take me 3 minutes. Washing these few dishes is going to take me X amount of time, whatever it is.
Well, even like this is so weird because, and this is procrastination to the definition. I had a full day to do something before, I think was it Thanksgiving? Whatever the event was, I had a full day, 2 days prior to get like the groceries or to get whatever it was, right? And I'm like, I still have a few hours in the morning of, I'd rather do this right now. I'd rather, whatever it was. And so I waited till that particular day to go grab the groceries. And of course they didn't have this, so I had to go run to another store. But so I am procrastinator because why didn't I just leisurely go get them so that they would be there when I was ready to go?
And what was your experience like in terms of stress level, et cetera?
Oh yeah, because then you can't find it. You're like, oh great, now I got to go to another store, and you start to begin to feel stressed because now the time management is not going to be
right. And so I think the reason why I brought this up is because some people, like you clearly have said you procrastinate certain things, and really I'm not even trying to just deal with. I'm not trying to talk to you about it. I'm really trying to get to what is the thing that's going on in people, in us, because I do the same thing. I think I mentioned that a few weeks ago. I did before school ended. I did my paper a week beforehand, which I can do a lot. I mean, I can't. And sometimes I'm pretty busy and I can't. But there are times when I can get a head start on certain things, and instead I wait.
Yeah.
Or I pretend like I don't want to say I pretend like, because I actually do. But I'm reading certain things. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing this. And it's like I could do certain things in the paper right now, and this reading could wait for a little bit.
Right.
But it's easier for me to read and learn and do that than it is to get into the meat of the paper. And this one time I just said, no, I'm going to actually sit here as if it's due this weekend. And what was fascinating about it is that it was first of all, I think it was better work. This is the key thing for me. When I don't procrastinate, I actually think I get better work done than when I when I am like waiting till the last second.
Yeah.
Because when I'm waiting at the last second, it's like I have to write. I'm talking about paper, because that's the most recent thing that I might procrastinate. I have to just get it done. And so it's like, okay, I'm just going to do that. Okay, that works.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
I'm like, that's not the greatest paper in the world. And so whatever the project might be for work or for school or for even your life or something that you have in your home, it's like if we wait, I don't think we get our best work done.
Yeah. Well, you did bring up a point when I was hearing you say that, because your paper isn't something, you're not going to always write that particular paper. So it has to be very mindful about what you're doing. Whereas like you said, if I know that it's going to take me X amount of time to unload the dishwasher, because I do unload the dishwasher every 2 days, then I know in my mind how much time I have, where a paper's different, like, cause you're writing on a different subject or topic or whatever it is. So
yeah, even our
so
podcast,
you would write it more, you would probably write it better if you took more time with it, versus the unloading the dishwasher is the same every time.
Right. Well, and you know what's funny is it actually took me less time, which is really interesting. It took me less time to write the paper. Now, I don't know if this is unique to that particular paper, but it did take me less time to actually write the paper. And I wonder, is it because I didn't feel stressed?
Right.
And because sometimes when I'm feeling stressed, there's that thing that's going on in my mind, and
well, your mind is probably thinking, I got to get this done now. I got to get this done now.
Instead of what do I want to
Leisurely
write?
writing
Yeah,
it, yeah.
and what do I need to write? What
Yeah.
can I? And then my typical way of writing a paper is I write it, and usually in 1 or 2 days, and then before I submit it, I wait 1 day. So I always like to get it done at least a day ahead of time. And if I can't, usually I go for a workout and then I come back and read it one more time because I want like fresh eyes on it. But here's the real thing is, what's fascinating is it actually took me less time. You might think, oh, that's going to take you a lot longer. It probably took you the whole week. It didn't. I actually spent less hours on it. It still took a significant amount of time, but I spent less hours on it. The thing that I'm finding interesting is the reasons why people procrastinate. And so, maybe there is like different sections, right? So there's the people out there that are saying I procrastinate because I just don't want to. So I'm a kind of a guy, I will say this, when it comes to certain tasks, and this is like age, because I've not always been this way. I don't know. I'm looking around the room because I'm looking at the younger people, and I wonder about Patty. I'm curious about you. I'm the kind of a person nowadays that, like, when I walk in the door, I do everything. I don't like throwing things on the ground anymore.
Right.
So like for me, it's like, I'm going to hang it up. I'm going to put the shoes where they need to go.
Yeah.
And I'm going to actually, if I have to, walk upstairs, put it away. And it's like, maybe it takes me a few more minutes, but I just feel better that I don't have to think about it anymore.
Of course, yeah.
But so you're saying, of course, but I don't think it's always, because that's not the way I used to be. I mean, when I was a kid, especially, and even when we were first married.
I don't think everybody's like that, because I know my daughters aren't like that, and it's, but for me, I'm like you. I'd rather take the extra minute or two, because it really doesn't take that much longer to put things away where they're supposed to go, versus having to turn around maybe a week later or whatever the time frame is, and then go, okay, now I got to tackle everything that I did not put away where it was supposed to go.
Did you say done not?
Done not. But I mean, in all honesty, I don't know how this is going to relate to even procrastination, but there are some times where I feel like, because we've talked about this on the podcast, that I do have OCD tendencies, where I walk into like Nicole's house and she just flips her shoes off and leaves them on the ground, or she'll put her jacket over the back of the couch, and the kids flip their shoes off and just leave them there, and then we all just go on our day doing whatever at our house. Part of me is like, I wish I could do that. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I had that free spirit feeling of that won't bother me. But then again, at the same time, it's like,
eventually they're going to have to be put away.
Yeah. And I know for Nicole, she says, it ends up piling up, because then if you get behind, especially with 2 kids, then it becomes a big task to put everything away,
Yeah.
But,
yeah, it's interesting because again, we're on the task thing. I guess they're all.
Well, the procrastination is huge when you do think about, like, because part of you look at the big pile of something that you have to tackle to put away, and you're like, that's just overwhelming right now. then there's that procrastination to leave it, right?
So that's what's interesting. That's one of the reasons why people don't do it. Just task aversion. They just don't want to do there's certain kinds of tasks that it's like, I just don't want to do it. I'll be honest with you. It's really funny for me. I don't like, when I work out. So I have routines nowadays. And quite frankly, it's so funny. I'm so routine oriented that to break my routine feels weird. But whenever I work out, I immediately take a shower. And I know people that don't. You know, they can sit and they can eat and they can do whatever. Today, I didn't do that because I was already downstairs and I wanted to eat real quick because I had a coaching session. And so I ate before I showered. And it was okay for me to do that, but it was weird because it's like I just want to get it over with. I want to get the shower over with. And my thought this time was, if I eat, I can go upstairs, I can shower, I could get ready, and then I just go have the coaching thing. I don't have to go back and forth. And so it made sense to me at that moment. But those are little silly little things, right? But they're real things because I think what happens for a lot of people is when we procrastinate, we end up with a bunch of different things we know we have to do in our head. And then several things can happen. One is we don't remember everything we have to do.
Exactly.
So then it doesn't even get done, whatever it is that we're going to do. And then you either have some kind of work consequence or relational consequence with somebody because we didn't complete it. And then the other thing that happens is I think people feel overwhelmed and they feel like there's not enough time in the day to get everything done that they need to get done. And the truth of the matter is that if we really looked at our day, we would go, man, I had a lot of time that I didn't do jack.
Yeah.
You know,
it's very true because you just get in that, you know, for lack of a better, like Netflix mode, because you basically just let everything go because you just don't know where to start and how to tackle it all. And, you know, I think I've said this before, like, what you're saying is like there's all these tabs open like you would have on your computer, and that's all in your head, and you just don't know where to focus to just even begin, and it becomes overwhelming.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because for me, the issue with procrastination, if you're, you know, there's some things it's like, okay, you wait to do the dishes, but you always do them. You just wait till the last minute, and maybe it ticks off your husband or wife because you're doing it the last second. So that's like irritating, and maybe it's going to end up being a relational issue, but at least you're always doing the dishes. Like the dishes don't just sit there going for days and days and days where you just keep buying more dishes. But the thing is that when we have multiple tasks in our head, so something that's been going on with me, this is going to sound so funny, but because I've been a student, because I've been a coach, because of the nature of what I've been doing, I haven't really written to-do lists as much as I used to. So when I was planting a church and when I was leading different events and doing different things, I mean, I had a to-do list and I had everything written out.
I don't know where my phone is, but I just listed everything, you know, and I even put where it's the actual to-do list so you can actually check it off. You know? Yeah.
So I used to use this program called To Do. I think it's called To Do. And now I'm curious, what's it called? Things. So I was wrong. It's called Things. And so I use this application called Things, and I used to use it. It was on an old computer. I had it for so long. It was on the days when you bought it directly from like there was like no app store.
Oh, right.
It was like I had it for a really long time, or maybe there was an app store, but I didn't know it, but I bought it. So when I got rid of the computer, they didn't know that I bought it. So I had no proof of it.
Oh.
So I was going to buy it, but I was like, do I really need this thing? Because nowadays, the way I run my tasks and the way I do things, I really don't know if I really need it. And then I looked it up anyway because I thought, well, maybe I do want it. Well, it's way more expensive than what I remembered. And so I was like, oh no, I definitely don't need it. And not that expensive, by the way.
Yeah, but you're like, I don't need it if I can just do that.
Yeah, if I can just do it on my own.
Yeah.
Well, what's fascinating is because of Black Friday or Monday, Cyber Monday or whatever it was, they had it on sale like half price. So I went ahead and bought it for all my devices. So my iPad, computer, and phone. And I told Patty, it's like I have such peace of mind writing everything down that I need to do, and I'm getting things done. Even Patty's like, I'm so grateful you're getting all these little things done. But what I didn't realize is I had a lot of things that I want to do in my head, and I procrastinate, don't actually do it, and I don't plan. This is the key. I don't plan when I'm gonna do it, and so because I don't plan when I'm gonna do it, it doesn't get done.
Right. And I think, you know, because people tend to just keep things in their head, that's where a lot of the procrastination comes, because like you said, you feel like there's just so many things, like where do I even start or focus on? And I know we mentioned this before about making lists. So I was this morning, it's very funny that you mentioned it, because this morning I was like, I have so much to do today. I have so much to get done. And so I made my list, and then I checked off what I did get done. And like you said, just the peace of mind and the satisfaction of checking things off.
It's something really cool about pushing the check mark, isn't it? I sometimes will do a task and then I'll write it in my to-do list so I can check it off.
100%. If I did something that wasn't on my to-do list, I'm like, oh, I better write this down and check it off.
And then check it off that I did it. So good. And it's like, I already did it. It's like, I don't need to write it down.
Nope, totally done that.
Yes.
But it's very, and it really does help you not procrastinate.
Yes.
And all you have to do, like for me, there's going to be a couple of things that I will not get done, because by the time I leave here, we're probably going to go pick up the grandbabies and then head out. But I will move it to Saturday, so that, or whatever. Yeah. I will move it till tomorrow. And then there's certain things I do have to get done before Christmas, so I know I will.
Right.
But it's not like it's not going to,
yeah. Well, and my thing today wasn't necessarily to solve procrastination for everybody, because
it's basically, why are we procrastinating?
Yeah. The really, why do we procrastinate? And then what are the consequences of procrastinating? You know, you mentioned earlier about relationships, and you know, I think one big reason why people procrastinate, I should say, there are a certain group of people out there that are perfectionists. Mm-hmm. And there's actually a significant amount of, my daughter's waving. So there's a significant amount of people that are perfectionists. And so this is what's fascinating to me, is that I'm not going to say a blanket statement about everybody in the world, but I would just say this. Have you ever worked for somebody that you go, how in the world did this person get the job? Because they're like, they just don't have the abilities. Well, what's interesting is, because if we're perfectionists, you look at other people and you say, why aren't you doing this and this and this? And what's fascinating is a lot of leaders are not perfectionists. Mm-hmm. They do not spend hours looking at an email deciding if this is perfectly written. Mm-hmm. They just write it and send it, and then you receive it and go, this is crap, or this is irritating. And then you have to say, why in the world did you say? And then they're like, oh yeah, I didn't mean it like that. Yeah. And they just move on. They don't have a problem with it. Yeah. Whereas the perfectionist is like, I got to write it just so, it's got to be right. It's got to be perfect. And what happens is that it paralyzes us. Yeah. And so, you know, the great saying is, perfection is the enemy of good. Yeah. So you can do good work, but perfection just will kill you, and it paralyzes you, because if you're not in the mood to do perfect work, then you're not going to do it.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying earlier on, that a lot of times I think procrastination, because I am actually a perfectionist, and I admit it now. Before I would have, no, I'm not. But I am the type of person that when I would do my handwritten like grocery list, if I accidentally had to scribble something, I would move it. I would tear it up and start all over. You know, or if my writing didn't look pretty enough, I would start it all over. Or if I accidentally, because I do it according to departments in the grocery store, and if I accidentally forgot to put something in the frozen area, I had to start all over. So definitely a perfectionist, but I lost my train of thought because I went.
I don't know what you're going to say, but it does remind me of something that made my kids laugh, which has nothing to do with perfectionism. So I make sure that when I wash my underwear, that it goes in a certain order, so I continually wear different ones, and I don't wear the ones over and over again. So that way they're all getting evenly worn.
Oh, that's cute.
Evenly worn?
This way, so isn't that a weird thing?
That is
I
weird.
put it inside my drawer. And
That's
whenever
opposite
I
of
wash
me
it-
because I'm like, these are my favorite underwears. I'm going to use all these first before.
Yeah, well, mine are all the same.
That's
I
funny.
mean, they're different color, but nobody sees them.
Well, that's true.
So it's like, so I just sit there and
Yeah.
I make sure that I,
Yeah.
So that's
But no,
very
to
important.
your point about perfectionism and procrastination, I agree with you on that because I feel like a lot of times if you don't think that you're going to be able to do something 100%, then you're just like, I'm just not going to do it right now.
Right.
And that's to a fault.
Well, and I
'Cause
would
you
even
really
say, not
should-
only am I not going to be able to do it 100%, I think another thing that paralyzes is I don't even know what to do. Like because
Where do I start?
Yeah, where do I start? How do I get this thing going? You know, and I keep using the email one because I've struggled at times. I've wanted to write an email and then all of a sudden I type it out and then I look at it and then I go, is this right? And then I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but there's certain things where I find myself getting stuck, and the point is that I go, no, I'm not gonna live there. I'm just gonna I choose it. I have to say I'm gonna just move on.
Yeah.
And because it's so funny
Well,
how
you
often
know-
we'll be paralyzed about something that you end up doing, and it's like it ended
Yeah.
up being nothing like I thought.
Exactly.
In terms of being such a big deal or whatever.
Well, it's funny because with Modere and Beauty Counter, the two side hustles I have, there's so many people like in the business when they first started, like people started doing stories and stuff. And I remember back in the day, Lowen, I'm not going to show my face on stories. I'm not going to do that. I will show the product and that's it. And maybe I'll talk so they can hear my voice. And then people were basically saying, and then I said, okay, maybe I will. And then like a month or two later, somebody said, you know, you said you were going to do it. Are you going to show your, you know, blah, blah, blah. I go, maybe next month. Because I wanted it to be perfect.
Yeah.
And they're like, be raw. Like, just start talking. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, it doesn't have to be perfect. And of course, over time, you'll get more comfortable and it may not ever be perfect, but at least you'll be more comfortable doing it. But there's so much to be said about just stepping out there and doing it instead of waiting for it to be perfect.
Instead of waiting for it
Because,
to-
yeah.
And this podcast is like a perfect example, at least in our life, because we certainly didn't. We certainly haven't made it perfect, and we
Right.
kind of jumped into it, just going,
Oh, yeah.
let's go for it.
Definitely.
So it's funny because I think that in some ways I just know that there's, and I think this is another thing. It has to do with task aversion, meaning there are certain tasks that I just don't want to get into. And whether that has to do with past experience or just the amount of work that I know it's going to be, or just the fact that I prefer to do something else.
Yeah.
I just prefer to whatever that is. Like in my case, when it comes to school, I prefer to read and learn more than I do to write,
Yeah.
especially depending on what the paper is about. I don't necessarily get real excited about having to write about it.
Yeah.
And so it's like when we have a preference.
Yeah.
How do you say that?
Preference.
To do this instead of that, then it's like, yeah, we're gonna procrastinate the one that
Yeah.
we don't want to do.
Right.
And again, I'm not. What I really want, what I wanted to talk about is just the fact that this is an issue that people have, and that ultimately, I wonder, because I wrote down a bunch of stuff that I looked up. So lack of self-discipline is certainly one that can be an issue. So that we've talked a lot about discipline in life, so I'm not even going to go there. We talked about, we didn't talk about this, but poor time management is another issue.
Definitely.
Just people that have poor time management. I do this whole thing in coaching, but suffice it to say, a significant amount of folks, why they struggle with poor time management is because they really don't know what their mission is in life. Like they don't know what they're trying to accomplish in life. And every day is a new day, and they just are kind of like, let's just see what happens. Okay, if you're going to really be artsy and that's what you're going to do, then that's fine. But the thing is that ultimately, even the most artsy people are trying to do something. Like they're trying to implement some kind of art. They might not have a structure to their day, but they definitely have an idea. Like, I actually listened to Conan O'Brien's, what's it called? He Needs a Friend or something like that. It's fascinating to me to listen to him because his purpose is I want people to laugh and
Yeah.
I want people to enjoy
Yeah.
life. That's what he cares about. So his life is that. That's what he does. So he
Right.
wakes up every morning and he can do that. Now I bet you if you talked to him and said, "Hey, I really want you to have a serious conversation with this person who just lost a child and this is your goal, but you can't make them laugh." Well, he's going to procrastinate that because that is
Yeah.
not part of his mission.
Right,
it's not
right,
part of
right.
his vision. It's not a part of his dream of what he wants to accomplish. So knowing that and then doing it
Yeah.
is a huge
That makes
thing
sense.
too. So knowing what is your purpose? Why are you working where you're working? What is your goal with your family? What is your goal in relationships? What is your goal this year, 2024?
Right.
Well, I can say this, that one of my goals is to read The Gifts of Imperfection, right?
Yeah.
And discuss it.
Same.
So I hope this was helpful on procrastination. Was this interesting to you?
No, it's good, and I do agree that there's a lot of key points in there with the time management or just the avoidance because it's something that you don't want to do, or maybe it's just overwhelming. But if it's important to you, put it on a list of things to do and actually try to.
Yeah, putting it
Implement.
on a list, saying what you're going to do, and then structuring it. And I mean, just going for it. Not all of you are perfectionists, but I bet you a significant amount are who deal with procrastination. Others of you might just lack the self-discipline, which you could listen to previous podcasts about. But perfectionism definitely is something, and this is the Gifts of Imperfection.
I'm very excited to read that.
Yeah, so I'm glad that we're gonna do this. So guys, if you haven't got it already, please download the book, The Gifts of The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, and we are going to do what is it called again? The something one?
What was it? The guidepost.
Guidepost 1.
Yeah.
We're going to do Guidepost 1 in our next podcast. So if you have time, if you don't want to read all the preamble, Valerie had a little spiel about the preamble. She was about to have a heart attack.
Before we went online, I was like, oh my gosh, there was so much before you even get into the guidepost. But
You'll be fine if you just read the guidepost. I
Yeah.
will say the beginning is going to talk a little bit about her and her authority and why she's doing what she's doing and what makes it so that she wants to write a book like this. So it's interesting read, but we're going to talk about the guideposts. That's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm going to read that.
So Iggy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Iggy.
Thank you for looking it up. Looking up what the word is. And thank you, Valerie.
Thank you. It was
Okay.
fun.
We will
Chat with you guys soon.
next week. Thank you for listening. Oh, wait. Follow us at Benny Gonzalez on Instagram.
And a daily dose of cocoa.
Yes, and we'd love to hear from you. Please give us a DM. That would be great.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Till next time. Ciao.